Today, it's exactly a year since my short animated film Waiting was finished. If you haven't seen it, here's the link. So I think it's a good time to share with you something about how it was made. It started with an idea, so I made a reference sheet and then forgot about it for a year. When I found it in my gallery a year later, I decided to think about the story more. And that summer morning, I named the dog Brown, thought about how some of the scenes would be paced, cried 7 times in the process, and then the idea took shape and I decided to go for it. I made the music first, so that way I could just animate along with it, because I thought it would be easier than doing it the other way, and I was right. I already had the tiny plan for the film. Well, the type of plan where I knew how the story would approximately go, but not how the scenes would look. But I knew I could figure that out later, so I just made some tunes about how I felt the movie would feel. As you can hear, it sounds a bit different and painful, but this is what I listened to thousands of times while animating it. Then, this step should be making the sketch, but it isn't. I decided not to do this part. I didn't plan out the entire film, rather, I completed one scene after another. I always made the sketch for the scene that I was currently working on, made line art, colored it, added effects, and then I moved on to the next scene and did it all again. Remind you, I did not have the scenes well planned out anywhere, not even in my head. So, you might be asking, why would I think this was a good idea? When I did long sketches in the past, the moment I realized how much line art I had to do after that, it changed my mind about working on it at all. I don't like line art, so I wanted to ease the pain by having it separated by each scene, so that I would not have to do something like 2 months of line art and nothing else. I think that makes sense, right? This would not be as bad if I did not take such long breaks between working on it. When you animate something while having longer breaks, your art style can shift slightly. In the final film, my art style isn't as consistent as it could be, and you can notice how it changes throughout the animation a bit. At the same time, it gives the viewer a feeling like it really took me a long time, and I suppose it can be nice as well. For example, I like it, but I know that animated films usually shouldn't be like that. Working on a big project is hard. I wanted to make the film also to prove to myself that I'm capable of finishing this type of project, so that I can feel more confident to start an even bigger project. I saw this as the easier type of hard, but it turned out to be harder than I thought. I was halfway done when I started to feel overworked. I knew that I would finish it. I would not allow myself not to, after spending so much time on it and literally seeing half of the movie in a finished state. But I also craved working on something smaller and more fun, to take a break from this project because it felt tiring and draining. I also had vacations and school projects to do, and as I stopped working on it for a while, getting myself to work on it again was very difficult. But I slowly did. At this time, I still didn't figure out what scene would play at what time, and I was kind of deciding when I got to it. I had the beginning, I knew how I wanted to make the end, but again, the space between was still quite free to work with. I could have caused myself so many problems. Like, if I ran out of time, I don't know what I would do, but luckily it went well and without any major complications. Except sometimes managing the wrong layers without an option to undo it, but saving more versions of your project in case it ever happens is a very good thing and life-saving. Remember to save your project, it's good. It was also quite fun. Having no exact plans made me feel a lot more free, and I had room to think of different ideas piece by piece, filling in the blanks. The ending, surprisingly, took me the least time. After the speed-up scene, it went quite quickly and took me just a few days. It was probably because I used some of the backgrounds that I had already made, but it was also because I was so excited to be so close to finishing it, and I got the urge to work on it again. I was very happy to have finished it. After that, I added some final effects, made the logo and poster, and then it was actually finished. I felt that after working on it, I would get into starting even a better film, even a bigger project. But I was left quite burned out, so I just got into doing other things for some time. But overall, I'm very glad that I tried it, and that I finished it. As I said, it was harder than I thought. I didn't necessarily mean the animation, but rather getting myself to complete it all after having that huge break in between. If you'd ever want to make a short animated film yourself, I would recommend making a few projects by sketching first. It takes considerably less time and it gives you a more vivid idea of how the story will look completed instead of leaving it in your head. And in case you don't get to finish it all, you'll still have the sketch and you'll be able to get back to it another time. What I did wrong was not making the sketch first. I thought I would be fine without it, but I think it would be easier if I did make it. I also shouldn't have had such a long break between, because it resulted in my art style being inconsistent. But I will keep all that in mind when working on another project. In fact, surprise! I already started working on one, and I'm certain it will take me less time than the first one. I hope you'll like it. Anyway, thank you for listening. I appreciate that you're interested. I hope you'll have a great day. Bye!